Um, oh, so you made that form last time, and I had, just like as a test run, I had the 4 other people in class do it. I don't know if you got emails with like when they took it.
I don't think I did, but I'm not sure because that's not like my main email.
Gotcha. Um, well, if you open it, let me see. Maybe you sent it to me, so I'm gonna take a look. But you should be able to see the responses. Oh, I found the link if you need it again.
I found it.
Yeah. Okay, so if you like go to the main page and it has questions, and then you can click over to responses, and there are 4 responses. I just want you to have a look through those responses and think about like, is that kind of what you were expecting? And especially like because you're going to be sending it out to more people, is there any way that you would want to like change those questions so that you get better like data?
I could probably do like a question for people that just straight up don't play video games and then like make the rest of the responses just like and that's an alternative answer for them to like choose that.
I like that. Like kind of at the beginning for like how many hours a day, and then or there could be a question that's about no. As far as the, so that's good for video games. As far as the questions about grades, how are you feeling about the responses you got for that?
Mm, pretty good, but I think that it might be a bit like not that good since there's like for some of them they gave me like 2 grades, one gave me one, and then like some people don't know since the grades haven't been updated.
Yeah, I was noticing that too, especially because, yeah, people maybe only gave a couple class grades. I think that like that might be something that, like you say, they just don't have information about anything specific. But I'm just wondering if there's anything that you could do to make it so that you would get better data on that, or any way you would want to change that question.
I could probably like change the variables instead of grades since that's like it's more of like a gray area since people don't really know it. I could probably do like GPA or like if they get time to study or just like straight up change it.
Okay. And you don't have to get rid of it. Like, it's still a good question. And the nice thing is, if you want to add a question to this one to maybe get some information about GPA or something like that, you don't have to use every single part of the survey when you're doing your analysis. Um, but yeah, so I want you to take a minute and make any edits to the form that you would want, just so that you think, you know, that you'll get better data, hopefully in the future. And then we'll talk about how we can do our sampling.
For the grades, could I just do like add your grades and your GPA? That way, like if I have enough people that put in grades, I can just use the grades. And if I don't have enough people, if everybody puts their GPA, I'll have enough data for that.
I think that's fine. Yeah. As long as like you feel like it's written in a way that people are gonna give you as much information as possible.
I think that it's good since like most of the questions have no choices and they can put like I don't play video games. So that would be like it's not like forcing you to say yes to everything.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, and okay, I like that you were like, it's in power schools, kind of giving them the maybe you could check. I think this will hopefully get you more specific responses. And so last time we talked about kind of who you want to sample, and I remember you said that you would maybe want to only look at the 9th and 10th grade like classes. Is that still what you're thinking?
I'm not sure because ninth grade has only had this year so far to do their GPA. Meanwhile, 10th grade has had the past 2 years to do their GPA.
Hmm. That's a good point. Um, so I'll give you kind of a resource that I have that you can kind of use to figure out maybe who you'd want to sample. Okay, in the chat, I just put a link to a list of virtual learning pods. And what this is a list of scholars for each grade level. And it has them with their, well, who used to be their study hall teacher, although I think some of these have changed because this was the beginning of the year. But okay, things that might be helpful is that you have kind of like alphabetically all of the 9th graders, well, not alphabetically because I guess they're in order by who their study level teacher is, but all of the 10th graders, and then 11th and 12th. And so that could kind of give you a jumping off point to figure out maybe if you just want to do 10th graders, we'll figure out who we need to get in touch with in order to do that. Are there any other variables that you think you would want to control for besides grade level?
I don't think so because the only other variables would be like gender, but like I know that both genders have like some girls do play video games.
Yeah.
And they have like the same classes as the boys. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. It doesn't necessarily need to be gendered. As long as you don't have like only girls or only boys in your sample, it should hopefully be all right. So what I want you to do, after kind of looking through this and thinking about maybe how you could use it, whether you would want to do like random sampling, simple random sampling, or whether you'd want to do some sort of cluster sampling, head to our brainstorming document and just write out for me what population you're going to sample, any variables that you want to control for, and then kind of specifically, how are you going to select people to poll? I'll give you the link to this again. Links in the chat.
What variables could I control in my sample?
I think, so because you talked about only wanting to do 10th graders, you're actually controlling for some variables there. So you could talk about like the reasons that you don't want to do 11th and 12th grade. And then also talk about maybe, like last time you were telling me you could sample people you knew, but you thought that might be a source of bias. All right, so talk me through what you're thinking for how are you going to do the sampling?
I'm thinking of just like getting all the 10th grade students from the list and the study halls and just like put numbering them and then just like picking the sufficient numbers to make it like normal and independent, and then just picking out how many ever I can to have like a big enough pool of people.
Okay. And then once you select them, would you want to, I'm just thinking about like practically, how would you make sure that they complete the form? Are we going to kind of email them individually and ask them to do it?
I mean, the only problem with that is if they don't answer the form, because I
Right.
could maybe send it out to all the study halls and then just pick from the ones that haven't answered with the random generator by numbering the responses.
Oh, that could be interesting. Do you mean like, because they're not giving their names, it would be like response number 1, response number 2, and then you'll just select from there? That's actually, I hadn't thought of that, but I think that could be really useful. And then you don't have to worry about maybe not getting as many responses. I think you're still, like you identified, you're probably still going to have some non-response bias because students who like are really checked out and just don't want to do anything probably won't respond to it. But no matter what we do, that's probably going to be an issue. Okay. So in that case, let's go ahead and draft an email to send. If you would just kind of write a couple sentences explaining what you want study hall teachers to do, and then email it to me and I'll send it out for you. Just kind of talk them through like, this is why I'm doing this. I'd love it if you could help me out. And, you know, maybe give them a deadline. So we could ask them to, you know, have every scholar do it by the end of the week or something like that.
Where do I send it?
egreen@uplifteducation.org.
I just sent it.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Okay. Good morning. My name is Sharon Campesino. I am a stats student. I created a Google form and I would really appreciate it. Is any responsive? That's perfect. Okay. So I'm going to use that and the link. One thing I'm wondering is, can we delete the past responses on the Google form so that they don't mess with anything? Oh, okay, I think we can. If you go to the question tab, or sorry, the responses. So we're under responses people gave and you click on individual responses. I think you should be able to delete them. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I got it.
Awesome. Okay, so from now on, any responses that we get will be added to the list, which means that as soon as probably next week, you'll be able to do that random sample of your responses and start doing your analysis. And so what I want us to do for the rest of the time is kind of talk through how are you going to actually analyze this. So what you're going to wind up with, right, is a dot plot with all of your information. So you'll have like your X and Y dot plot, and there will be a linear regression, so a slope of some line. And that's what you're going to be looking at. And so something I want you to think about is, if spending more time on video games makes people have lower grades, would you expect for there to be a positive or a negative slope to the line?
So since the hours would be higher and the grades would be lower, it would probably be
I'm just drawing it out while you talk about it. Okay, so wait, first things first, what is going to go on your x-axis? Is that going to be hours or grades?
it would be hours, because that's what's going to affect the grades.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so hours playing video games, and then grades go here. So if spending more time on video games means lower grades, are we going to have a positive or negative slope?
It would be negative.
Like that?
I think so.
Yeah, that would make sense to me, because then it would be like somebody who spends 10 hours a day on video games has lower grades, and maybe somebody who spends 2 hours a day has higher grades. And if it were the other way around, if it was positive, what would that tell us?
It could either be that that the video games don't affect it, or that video games affect it positively.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So your like alternative hypothesis basically is going to be either that more games lowers your grades or more games raises your grades. Which one do you think would make sense to you as an alternative hypothesis?
The alternative would probably be that it improves the grades.
Okay. So more time playing video games. Games increases grades. Okay, so that means that what you are kind of expecting is a positive slope to your line. So what I want you to think about is that's your alternative hypothesis. What is our null hypothesis?
Would it be that more time decreases grades?
Ooh, good point. No, actually, because there is an in between. Because it's possible that it doesn't matter, right? So what would we say? Like if there's no impact, it would be more time playing games.
Time playing video games does not impact grades.
Yeah. Okay, so more time playing video games does not impact grades. So if we were to put this into numbers, we would be using, let me see if I can draw it. This symbol, which is a beta, and we would say, okay, for our alternative hypothesis, we think that it is greater than 0 because we think we're going to get a positive slope. Which means that when we come to write our null hypothesis, it's going to look a lot like you did with all of the other intervals. You would want it to be equal to 0. Right? And basically what that means is if when you graph everything, you get a bunch of points that don't really show any slope at all, then when you do your linear regression, you're going to see a completely flat line. So this is what your graph would look like if your null hypothesis is true. Does that make sense? Oh, I didn't mean to clear them. Undo. Yay. Okay. So what I'm going to have you do is watch a short video about crafting this null and alternative hypothesis. And as you're watching it, I want you to jot down specifically how do we notate the null and alternative hypothesis. Because for each type of test, whether it's a difference of means, whether it's proportion, we do different symbols. And I want to make sure that you're using the one that fits with what you're doing here. So let me clear this and stop share, please. In the chat is the link to the video I want you to watch. When you finish that, go ahead and log into Khan Academy and do the assignment, making conclusions about slope. I just assigned it, so it should show up at the top of your list.